Hi, everyone. I would like to welcome our panelists and attendees to Aircards' inaugural webinar series on the power of immersive. In a moment, we will go through a quick round of introductions of our panelists, and if any of the attendees have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Marek, I will hand things over to you.
Thank you, Christy. Hello, everyone. Super excited to be at this first ever webinar organized by Aircards, focused on the power of immersive. My name is Marek Wrobel. I'm head of global partnership at Aircards. And yes, super excited to talk about immersive experiences for FMCG brands.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to say, hi everyone, I'm Arthur O'Neill. I am joint head of invention and Mindshare. My responsibility is everything related to creativity and innovation, and been working with Marek and with Aman, who will introduce himself in a second, on sort of all things emerging tech, immersive experiences, and a field that's of high interest.
Cool. Hi guys, this is Aman here. I sit in the Global Media Innovations and Brand Partnerships team at Unilever, and my role is to help get our brands into pop culture spaces. So essentially, that means the work we do in gaming, sport, anything pop culture, music, etc. And this is what we do through different lens of technology and immersive experiences we build, whether it's in gaming, whether it's AR, whether it's looking at experiential marketing of sorts. So I think that's pretty much my role for this particular call.
Thank you, everyone. And just to introduce myself, I'm Christy. I'm also part of the Aircards team working alongside Marek, and I am the Global Partnerships lead. With that, I'll turn it over to Marek to give us a brief introduction on who Aircards are.
Amazing. Thank you, Christy. Let me maybe share a few slides. It cannot be a virtual call without a few slides. So yes, we thought that it will be good. Of course, we're talking about the power of immersive. Some of you that will be on the call hopefully know Aircards. Hopefully there will be also people that just for the first time heard about our name and just want to learn more about the immersive experiences at Aircards. So just really quick few slides to talk about us. So Aircards Studios, we are a global immersive production studio dedicated to emerging technology, design, and immersive storytelling. We basically create immersive experiences for the world's biggest brands, including Unilever, obviously, which you will learn about more today. However, we've worked almost in any vertical that you can think about. I do like to say that our mission is clear. It is to deliver immersive, interactive, impactful experiences. Of course, for a long time, especially in previous years, we talked a lot about metaverse. There was kind of like this massive hype that I personally have a love and hate relationship. But I always say it's not necessarily about new terms. It's not about hype. It is about the evolution of the internet. And it is becoming more immersive and more interactive, and through this, more impactful. So what do we do when it comes to immersive experiences? The immersive space is absolutely massive. This is what I love about it, because it's so interesting. You all the time learn new things. However, sometimes it can be beauty and the curse, because there is so much. Here you can see the 6 main areas that we focus on, which basically covers most of the immersive space. However, we've done even more than this. So virtual worlds, gaming, web-based augmented reality, social augmented reality, digital out of home and 3D, basically connecting physical and digital spaces, and mixed reality. And when we think about headsets, of course, all of us are excited about our Apple Vision Pro, but also all the other things that is happening in mixed reality already.
Thank you, Marek. It's always good to have an in-depth understanding of the capabilities and the landscape of the immersive space. With that, we're going to narrow our focus a little bit, and I will direct this question to you as well, Marek. Typically, FMCGs are not really seen as sexy products, but Aircards is helping both Mindshare and Unilever change brand perception and increase consumer engagement. What has worked for these activations?
Yeah, of course. I think this is a really good question because, and of course, you will see in a second some of the projects we've worked on. However, also looking at the research, I think it's like this is just kind of like taking a step back in the bigger picture. Global Data, which is one of the highly respected research companies in our industry, looked at the top use cases for immersive tech in FMCG sector. So I will just show you now four pillars kind of like that you should think about when it comes to using immersive experiences for FMG brand. And I'm super happy to be using basically examples that we created for Unilever, working with Aman's team and also with Arthur's team. So the first pillar is product demonstration. So here we can think about, like, of course, it kind of like really aligns with augmented reality. We work in this case with Dermalogica, and we created a connected packaging experience that basically explains how product can be used, what is special about it. However, I always say that product demonstration doesn't have to be just boring about utility. It can be also about actually just demonstrating something about the product, what it is, what it stands for. Here we worked with Pot Noodle for a really, really fun social activation for Veganuary last year, which was all about bringing the kind of like the new flavors of Pot Noodle. And in this case, it was all about the spiciness and just turning you into a dragon. So as you can see, thinking about how you can use immersive tech to product to demonstrate something about your product. The next pillar mentioned that Global Data is thinking about the connected packaging. So something that I touched upon already. And in here you can see elements, for example, working with DAF, just kind of like aligning experience with it. However, we also worked with Magnum to create a sky segmentation experience. In this case, that the product was at the beginning of the experience. So it doesn't necessarily have to be aligned with it. It can be a thing that people just scan and start the experience. In this case, it was all about Star Chaser, which was a new flavor of ice cream for Magnum. And one of my favorite activations that we worked on is that it's currently live in multiple markets, which is for the launch of, again, new flavors with Magnum, which is Pleasure Express, and it's all built around gamification. So again, the immersive space, it's really, really rich for FMCG brands when it comes to gamifying experiences. And just to finish up, it's the virtual tours. In this case, it's not necessarily creating a tour of a of a venue or just almost like a tourism way. It is about creating an experiences and environment that people can learn more about your brands, that they can actually immerse themselves in it. And I think Axe activations that we ran last year with basically creating a manga-inspired world for Axe and for activity with Walmart and Lil Baby was a great example of it. But even location-based AR can help you creating this amazing immersive experiences in the world around you. So as you can see, there's, as I mentioned, four main areas. So there is product demonstration, connected packaging, gamification, and virtual tours as the four main pillars to think about when it comes to activating immersive experiences for FMCG brands.
Thank you, Marek. So much great creativity and use cases amongst the four pillars that you shared. Aman and Arthur, I'm going to throw this one over to you. Do you guys have any favorites of the activations that have launched to date?
That's a minefield. Aman, you want to share your favorite?
You go on, and then I'll pick next.
I think that's a tough one. I'm going to say probably the Axe one because of how I think the work we've done with Wolves and with Magnum are fantastic in that it provides an experience, augmented experiences of the brand ecosystem of channels, whereas with Axe it was very much finding ways to actually bring something to consumer that was outside of a brand ecosystem, and like all the work we had to do to like think about every step of the experience, making sure it was interesting and relevant, and how do we bring some of the content. It was a partnership with Lil Baby, who's a rapper, a US rapper, who's the ambassador for the brand. There was so much intricacy in thinking about the experience, like how would a teenager or someone fan of Lil Baby participate in that. So I'd say it's tough. I'd say it's probably at the top, but I do love the other experience for different reasons, I guess. I'm going to stay political here.
I think for me, like it's hard to pick, but in general, the ethos of a great experience is something that, because ultimately the reason why we do immersive experiences as FMCG brands in general is to have a to increase the engagement quotient with the consumers, because currently with traditional media that's pretty linear, like that's pretty hard to achieve. How can we engage the consumers better? How can we add value to the consumer experience? Yes, it's about marketing, it's about broadcasting, it's about bringing your brand top of the mind. But fortunately, with a lot of Unilever brands, they don't struggle with visibility. What
Mm,
they probably, the jobs to be done is how can we engage with them better? How can the brand be part of the consumer daily lifestyle, and how can we keep adding value to whatever we would do beyond a simple product purchase, which anyway a consumer would do. So I think these are
mm,
the three key elements to the story. uh,
mm,
and for me, any experience that kind of touches, number one, brings product into the picture a lot more
mm,
intrinsically, dials well into the product, the story of the product itself is something that wins. The distribution is a key aspect to the story, because the way we do with connected pack, every pack wins. I think I'm a firm
mm,
believer of that concept, because a physical pack for a CPG company is the biggest asset you have in the consumer hands, beyond any form of media, any form of communication that you would do. So how can you make the pack valuable? How can you make the pack, and all the money we spend on packaging, etc., more how can you make it more harder to work? How can you make the pack more harder to work is a key element to the story. And the same thing I believe with out of home, and what we're trying to
mm,
do now, where every out of home we spend, how can that every out of home be our media channel? How can that every pack be our media channel? How can
mm,
every aspect of the story and distribution channel we touch with the consumer be strong? And I think immersive experiences in general are the gateway to making that value exchange possible, because it is not just about engaging people to have fun. It's a fun experience, it's something that's cool, helps drive virality, and then in the end gives value in exchange. So my favorite example in the long story short is the Magnum one, but the one which we've done recently in the Fantasia launch, where because the pack itself, because we've launched three new flavors, the pack itself is so beautifully built,
yeah.
it kind of stands out. It's an ice cream, it's a fun product, it's meant to be engaging and fun and joyous. And when you're able to scan the pack and scan the immersive experience as a whole, once you do the experience, you end up getting a coupon code on your next purchase. I think that's a complete loop that I believe ties the story, because traditionally, not all general brand, I'm talking about general marketing, doing an immersive experience was cool, right? It was a shiny thing. Now, because of so much of exposure we have around in general around experience and QR codes, it's not cool. It's about how well we can
Mm.
add value to the whole experience. And I think, and make people share, because the success of a campaign and the virality is achieved only when people can share, because we can pump only a limited amount of media. The rest is all organic, and what I think, and that's why, having looked at the Magnum uh,
Mm.
results so far, I think the kind of virality we have got, the kind of shareability we have got, and the kind of feedback on the experience itself is pretty promising. So for me, that one would be the favorite one.
Yes, very promising.
I love the point, and I think I don't know if I will be stealing the thunder or the next question is just kind of like this focus on results and just kind of like how it's like I've worked in kind of immersive space for quite a few years now. It's just almost like scary for how long, but it's like it is interesting to see like how the conversation evolved from this kind of cool factor to actually now we should think about the results, about measurement and so on. So just like I think this is yeah I love this, and it's like yeah, but definitely something that changed and evolved, and I think we have to as an industry be much better talking about it.
But I think it. What? Sorry, Kirsty. There's a
Okay.
point where there's a point where what my man was saying around packaging within FMCG, like within Unilever, is massive because it's essentially a media park that you don't tap into. This is something we set out strategically 6 years ago. We have billions of packaging going out in the world, and that's media value that we can unlock. I think a lot of the time it's about we as expert in this field will identify all of the consumer behavior that are 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. We can see the early
Mm,
signs of X% of people are more likely to come to buy a product because they've engaged with AR, whatever the case. And so I think what's incredible is actually not the fact that the Magnum case is good or the Axe case is good. It's the fact that we've set out strategically a necessity to think about how do we leverage this technology, further along 5-10 years down the line. And the fact, if you take the fact that we have two examples with Magnum, for example, is how do we use this technology and learn from them, learn from those results, from what actually worked, hard-backed result, not just a cool factor, a cheer on the cake, but something that fundamentally changed the perception of consumers, that fundamentally makes a difference on brand or sales growth. Means that we can more easily reinvest. We can more easily think creatively about how do we use this technology differently for every single push. But I think, Kirsty, back to you.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you, Aman. It's nice to see the shift in both Unilever and Mindshare's strategy, and that immersive campaigns are being used for utility, that you guys are developing a roadmap and really forecasting how this becomes part of an omni-channel strategy. So with that in mind, Aman, you spoke a lot about the benefits of immersive campaigns to Unilever in terms of consumer engagement and packaging and providing added value to consumers. Is there anything else that you would like to share on that topic?
Yeah, I think you would hear our even leadership talk a lot about growth marketing. This is a word that's kind of become a focus area, because what is a marketing that drives growth, right? What is a marketing that drives business results, right? And I think the given the frontier and where we sit currently and the kind of consumer behavior that's evolved, especially in more developed markets, I think the intent to drive conversion, and I say conversion very carefully because I'm not just about selling products. Conversion can mean collecting first party data, because with cookie going away, it becomes even more important to collect first party data, to collect to eventually help consumers purchase products, to help them give some value for every product they buy, is the key story to this element. Because the fun element is fine. I think you do an experience, you find it cool. It's like sort of a 10-second, 15-second, 20-second experience. But what after? Why would people come back again? Why should people share it with their friends? What makes them stick and what makes them share that is a big part of the story. So for us, using all things immersive, whether it's AR, whether it's experiential marketing in general, to drive end product repeatability and usage, and even purchase for that matter, because we have to be ambitious now. We can't just doing top of the funnel stuff. We have to go mid funnel, we have to go lower funnel to justify the investment and the spend we are trying to do on every campaign we do. Is a key part of the story. And first party data collection and anything we do around analytics, and I know Aircards is a beautiful analytics solution that they've already built. Anything that you're able to capture in terms of consumer data, behavior, etc., is a key aspect of the story. And when we set out KPIs for campaigns like these, the discussion is now on number of impressions or number of scans. Discussion is around what is the dwell time, how much time are people spending with our consumers, with our experience, and second is what is the overall conversion factor. A lot of the campaigns you would see going forward would be driven towards end purchase. So it's still a nascent behavior. I won't say people scan and end up purchase, but even if you're able to convert like 10% of it or 15% of it, it's a good start of the win. There is also like another layer of immersive experiences that we are dwelling heavily, or not dwelling heavily, or at least looking at, is virtual stores. I know we talk about social AR experiences, we talk about web AR experiences, we talk about gaming experiences. By the way, there's a whole economy around gaming and virtual goods, and how we can tap into our products using gaming experiences and unlock value within games, the value that can be translated outside the game in real life. But there's a whole new use case coming out in virtual stores, which is around how can we replicate the shopping experience you get in a mall uh, into a virtual platform. Although it's still early days, I would say it's still early days for us, for consumers to start getting into a virtual 3D mall and start shopping and browsing the aisles. But I think 10 years down the line, that's my prediction at least, people would gradually get into that behavior and start doing that.
I think
I think
just if I can just oh, so sorry, Christy,
No,
but
go ahead.
I think two things that you mentioned, it's so like the dwell time, I think is like, it's so interesting, the kind of like immersive experiences and just kind of like the quality of time people spend. I find it really fascinating. Now, of course, there's quite a lot of discussion about attention in media. So just kind of like, and we went through the evolution of just kind of like, I remember when it was just, of course, CTR, and then there was clicks, impressions, deliver impressions, rendered impressions, all those things. And it's like, now we're moving to attention. And of course, it's not just kind of solves everything, but I think the immersive experiences have this kind of like, the dwell time is definitely a star metric, and just kind of the quality of the experience, and just kind of like thinking about it this way. And then even what you just said about, oh, this will happen in 5-10 years, is such a nice kind of almost callback to what Arthur just said. It's just kind of like seeing, testing and understanding the behaviors to get ready for what will be happening in 2-3 years, and just kind of how to future proof the basically digital experience in general for years to come.
Sorry, I was just. It's funny, this point of like 10 years down the line, and then where we are. I've literally spent the last week talking about how essentially we are moving fundamentally as a population away from just the sort of passive interaction with media, right? I will keep banging on about it to anyone who's willing to listen to my ranting, but we we as in marketing industry haven't evolved in the last 50, 60 years outside of 30-second ad. The majority of things that get used by big creative, we still have a celebrated industry, that 30-second film. And yet the way people consume the media isn't that way. We spend so much of our time talking about capturing attention, capturing attention, capturing attention. I'm sorry, we're beyond that. It's capturing attention and engagement. When you walk down the street and you look at an out of home, are you looking at the out of home, or are you listening to Spotify on your phone where you're looking at text? When you're watching a football game, the Euros game, are you watching a game, or are you also talking about it with your friends, or on Twitter, or sorry, X, talking about it? There is always a second layer of technology that's layered on top of existing communication, and I think that's why immersive experiences are so, to your four pillars, whatever the immersive experiences are so fundamentally needed for us to actually capture what people actually care about. I look at it from the lens of, as an agency, our key role to help, organization like Unilever is to help brands be relevant to consumers. Our role is to understand consumers as much as possible. And every research we see will tell you people demand more participatory stuff, right? I think it was, I can't remember the research, but the data was something like 80 or 90% of people skip ads. Smartphone users skip ads, right? 90%, I think it's 84% of people skip ads on their smartphone. The number of people who use ad blockers, there is this demand whereby people don't want 30-second, 6-second, 15-second video shoved down their feed and their throats. They actually demand that much more activeness. And whenever there is, and obviously companies who do provide the services will obviously put positive lights behind the result of that such activation. But the truth of the matter is, more time than not, interactive, immersive experiences and activation will always add, a deeper element to how we connect with consumer, because that's how people want to. No, I'm not saying kill TV, kill cinema, whatever. I'm just saying we need to be much more in the way we use this technology to actually complement a media plan, not being an ad hoc thing. It should be an inherent part to how we actually connect deeper engagement, and to Aman's point, drive growth. Because at the end of the day, if you're a marketer and you have budget to invest, you want to know that it's going to drive growth. I think we know, and you guys are a good place to talk about that, in a place where we can get actual hard data that shows the depth of how people engage and the growth you can drive with it. We get in there.
Thank you, Arthur. Hopefully you didn't alienate any of the audience with your rhetoric, but we have seen that immersive experiences are providing added value. They're deepening consumer engagement, but I'm sure that it wasn't all sunshine and roses in the planning process. Arthur, this is for you, and also Aman, to you. Were there any challenges you faced when selling this to your team? Any trepidation in launching your first immersive experiences? Any insights you guys can share on that process would be amazing.
I mean, the first thing is it can be very alienating not to know, what they are, right? If you're not an expert in the space, and I say I'm an expert in this space, I still discover new things on a daily basis because there is so much technicality that come into it. So I think not knowing, and helping our clients or whoever understand not just, it's an immersive, it's a cool thing, but also what goes into making that and why people care. And, there's quite a lot that comes into that. I think that to reiterate the point I just made, knowing that it will drive business. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we've had and we have, which is, you build an entire plan and then like any organization will go through it and go, actually, we need to cut a bit of budget. And do you know what the first thing is going to go? It's not the, sales and GRP on TV or social media plan, because we have 10, 20, 30 years of value research that shows, if you put X amount of TV, you'll get Y. We don't have that with immersive experiences. So actually, it's somehow saying strong sticking to those points of your consumer want this. Trust that because your consumer wants this. I think that for me, that's those two things of showing that it can drive performance and growth, and showing that attached to that, that is because people actually want these things, is probably the two biggest challenges. And beyond that, and the complexity of making that, beyond that is then how, we work a lot with creative agencies. Unilever has got an array of creative agencies to work with across all their brands, and helping being that bridge of educating, some of these creative partners who might not have been experienced to immersive. Some are, some aren't, and it's just finding the way to like be that bridge and explain. Look how much you can, expand and how much you can creatively tell a story in this new format, which is not something that's a bit more static, for example. So yeah, there's 4 points.
Yeah, I think it's to add in terms of challenges. I think when we started this, first to make these even affordable for brands who are just kind of doing it the first time, because I still remember days back in 2021 when we started talking about AR and even gaming experiences. There were certain experiences that maybe costed over 500K, whereas some experiences costed over 100K. There was no commonality or uniformity around what does it even cost to build an experience, because this is looking cool, but as marketers in general who are averse to understanding tech and what's the under the hood play, you can easily get swayed down and like being paying 10x or 3x 4x more money on what it does. But I think with all the experience we've had now working with partners like Aircards, we got a sense of this is what a rough investment could be, and this is the under the hood technology, whether it's building on an 8th wall platform or you go to a Unity or a Unreal Engine kind of high fidelity experiences. um, this is a sense of what an expectation of a budget could cost, and we're able to communicate that upfront to brands and set expectations accordingly. I think that getting a sense of understanding of what it takes to build this, and in terms of even complexity of the story, is been a game changer and kind of helped us churn more campaigns along the way. I think the second thing, and I'm being very practical here, the second and the most hardest thing to do here is nailing the consumer journey. Because sometimes what happens is, because people as creatives are in general very ambitious and want to do 10 different things and bring brands into the story, nailing that consumer journey is so hard, and we sometimes overcomplicate the whole piece so much, and there are so many drop-offs for every step, every scan, every consent you take, for everything you ask, there is a drop-off. And to be honest, it takes a good 3 to 4 weeks to nail that consumer journey down from like 12 steps to like 6 steps, which is harder for a consumer. We have to step into a consumer's shoe and not a creative and a technologist, saying that if I'm sitting in a subway, or if I'm just roaming around and I see out of home, what are the 4 steps or 3 commitments I need from the consumer to actually arrive at that experience and then complete it. I think nailing that consumer journey down, simplifying it to the T, and making it work for brand or for experience people across devices, across bandwidths, across countries is a big challenge, because I come from India. And I remember we built an experience, I won't name the brand, and we built an experience which is so high fidelity that on a normal smartphone, people couldn't even load the experience. And we kind of realized it much, much later that We built an experience on Unreal, which is so high fidelity, but nobody's able to view it because the smartphone doesn't allow for it. It was such a laggy experience. So I think the intent on everything immersive, because we're still kind of going through the phase where everybody wants to build an Unreal, everybody wants to build a Unity, but you have to understand where your consumer is sitting. You have to understand the kind of technology that's in the hands of the consumer, right? So nailing the consumer journey down, nailing the tech stack on the consumer journey is very, very critical. And then, the final point was, how do you balance branding and value exchange in the whole story? Some of the experiences I've seen personally are so overtly branded. It's like in your face branding. It completely looks like an ad. You don't want to build an ad, one more ad. There are so many ads out there anyway. You want to build an experience that subtly brings your product into the play. That's why I love the Magnum experiences. It's not an ad. It's something that just it's very cool, and you have to balance that piece out. So getting the cost right, because it can sometime balloon over to what you don't know, and understanding the platform and how it works. Second is nailing the consumer journey, and I think third is the balance between branding and actually giving consumers the joy of being there.
To the point of cost, if I can add one thing, I've kind of mentioned already, we looked 6 years ago at like what are the strategic area of innovation, why should we invest into these spaces, etc. I think there's a point whereby our industry gets too often distracted by the new thing, and actually the reason why you decide to invest and the reason you identify partners, you work over time to identify what should you invest in a certain area, is because you look at it as it's not a new trend, or it's not, don't get distracted. You focus on this is something that we know is going to deliver for us, and having the ability and the humbleness to say, actually, do you know what, we're not going to care about what the rest of the industry is saying and see this new thing, but actually, you make a point, Marek, about the metaverse, and the fact that everyone started talking about it was becoming this new trend. The metaverse, well, actually the subcomponents of it that had been in development for 30, 40 years prior to that, and will carry on being in development for the next 20, 30, 40 years after that. We just somehow had to pop this window of time where everyone cared about it, and we wanted to have the new Fortnite map, the new, like it was kind of like being 10 years ago, 15 years ago when smartphones came out and everyone wanted an app. It was the same thing. Actually, if you're strategically minded with how you invest your money into developing experiences that you can learn from and keep growing from, then actually the investment and how you then partner with people like Aircards to think about, actually, no, we know that we can get a better investment by doing things differently, etc. Over time, it becomes much more effective and efficient to create things that drive that element of growth. So yeah, I think, I couldn't agree more in terms of that first point on investment, and the other two obviously, but the first point is true.
And I just want to add, like, I think having talked about new technologies, emerging technologies at Aircards, but also in previous roles, I think it's like the one thing that I kind of sometimes see as a challenge is just kind of like the people kind of miss the evolution of things. Like very often it's like the test and learn, of course, is really important. Like I've heard about kind of like when you think about like AR or VR, and it was like hundreds of thousands of pounds, like, but that's kind of was years ago, and it's like actually the technologies evolve, and it's like, and I think sometimes people just kind of being and I do understand it on a human level, like you've been burned once and then it's really hard to come back and try something again, but these technologies evolve quite rapidly and just kind of becoming better. Even when we talk about kind of like the measurement and just kind of like I think that I almost wish for the immersive experiences to become more boring, because we very often talk about how cool they are, how they can tick the box, or they can be for, I don't know, PR box and so on. However, it's like they're so measurable right now. Like it's like you can, like Aircards build a bespoke 3D analytics platform called Metalytics that lets you understand how people move through the 3D spaces, help so much with optimization and understanding of the behavior. But at the same time, you can make activation projects shoppable, so you kind of start seeing the kind of more kind of like the result from it. So I think it's like almost sometimes I do wish that it's like immersive experiences would be like boring, measurable, kind of like they would have a space, because it's they matured a lot, and I think it's like it's not always easy. It takes time to set things up and so on, but it's like I think it's a definitely work worth doing to be really able to show what you're delivering for the business.
Thank you. And Aman and Arthur, if you don't want to work with Marek on boring experiences, I would like to put forward that I'm available. I only want to work on fun experiences. But with that in mind, everyone touched upon really important parts. Ultimately, we want to create exciting, authentic experiences for consumers. How important is trust and collaboration with the team that you're working with? And, Aman, I'll hand this over to you to kick this off.
I think it goes back to my point which I made. Point number one, the costs, and I think the trust. It's super important because, like for example, I am one person in the company, probably by virtue of what I've done and worked, understand what it does under the hood. But like if you talk to someone in local market who's kind of doing this for the first time, they won't know what exactly does it take to build this experience. And that is where I think the trust of working with a partner that won't take you for a ride and would deliver the experience as promised is super super important. I think, like, because on the outside it looks like a very funky experience, and when you add the word 3D and immersive and spatial, which are heavy words in general for a marketer still, because they still live in the 2D world, the premiumness on the experience automatically can be charged up, and you can hype up to say that this is a very high fidelity experience I have to do. Because remember, there's a whole SaaS story in this play as well. Every time you build on an eighth wall, you need license for that. And there is hosting fees. There's If you look at the complexity of the entire experience build, it is a fairly complex one. But you need to understand that you need to work with a partner that won't take you for a ride and would kind of be reasonable with what you are, and then and help you guide build an experience that can scale, right? Because there's one thing as cost, the other thing is the expertise on number one, not just building an experience but distribution of the experience. And then if I had to do it for longer term and build scale and build a phase two of it, and then get consumers to repeat and share, I think I truly want to be working with a partner and an agency and a media partner on that in case, like for example, Mindshare, and a combination that really takes care of the entire piece. Because I can tell you from my experience, it is not an easy one to nail. It is not an easy one to nail, especially if you're looking at down the funnel metrics, especially if you're looking at driving conversions and growth marketing. It is an easier one to nail where you pump it, as long as you pump in media, you get impressions and everybody is happy. I'm getting X number of scans. The day you stop pumping media, it becomes a ghost world. That is what we don't want to do. And for that not to happen, and for the organic loop to kick in, you have to have an experience and a journey that is very self-repeating, and that can only be built with the help of the real partners who have actually done their job. And fortunately, I think we have the combination of Mindshare and Aircards that have done for us over the course of last couple of years, and we hope to build more. But I think for me, trust is the most important thing, because in a in a CPG as big as Unilever with so many brands, it's very hard to bring uniformity to the play. And the only play that can bring uniformity is processes and agencies who are in the work have done things before, and always like we kind of thrive on what other brands have done. Like for example, Magnum gets inspired by what Walls is doing, like Walls get inspired by what Dove is doing. So there's a case of referencing, and the referencing only works when the partner is strong. So I think that's at least my play.
Agreed.
Thank you, Aman. Arthur, we'll send it over to you. Those are some high but realistic expectations from Aman, and you must have the weight of the world on your shoulders as a people agency.
Everyone needs an man to, just put you on a pedestal. That's good. Thanks, Aman. You can come back. The I look at it even from the once removed step, whereby we don't, on top of collaborating with brand team who have to trust you, who have to trust that you know what you're doing, working with a partner who know exactly the ins and outs of the technology, and not taking you for a ride, but also can push you in areas that you might not have thought of. It's also the fact that there is a lot of parties that gets involved, in this construct, because you need to have a creative agency, and they need to have a strong understanding of the solution of what we're trying to do, but also bring that sort of whatever the creative platform is, or the appreciation of how the brand should express itself into that world. There's a collaboration with a PR agency. There's collaboration with etc. etc. There is a whole host of ecosystem of partners that need to come into play, and trusting that everyone know what they're doing, and that this experience, whether they live at the center, whether it's an extension, whatever the case, can add the value that it does as much as what everyone else is doing is really important. So how do we as an ecosystem of channel can leverage this and how everyone trusts that? I think there's something key in that. And also I'll come back on the creative point of the user journey you mentioned, Ahmad, as well, which is it's really hard to explain. I ask this question quite often to a lot of the marketers we work with. Have you actually gone to the metaverse? Like, have you actually gone into a virtual experience? And the majority of the time, people haven't, right? More time than not. So you'd say it's probably like 70 to 80%. And so for us to be able to explain that user journey to someone who's never tried that kind of virtual experience or immersive experience, whatever we're trying to do, is really hard because they can't project themselves. They can project themselves in Facebook because they use Facebook every day. They can project themselves reading, watching TV, whatever the case, but they can't there. So the trust in that we have the ability to creatively bring the brand into this world and do something that actually will respond to consumer is so important. And I think that part of the reason, one of the reasons why I would say Axe in this set of examples, my favorite one, is because we design this experience as sort of an incentive for people to actually want to buy the product. And somehow it was at the center, but not at, it was a core component of the campaign, and there was an entire level of trust around how do we make sure that we create something that people really want to go to, they'll get content they couldn't access to, and that the journey is so simple that people can actually easily navigate to it. But also there's a trust that, for example, we would work with a retailer like Walmart to be able to bring focus on that, and that it's literally everyone in this ecosystem work together to make the most out of these immersive experiences. So it's again paramount that we trust each other, but also the level of collaboration, and because it's a new world to a lot of us. Let's say, I've been working in this space, but a lot of marketers, agencies, etc. It's a new world. To be able to explain and put ego aside and be willing to learn and throw yourself into it is so paramount to be able to make the most out of these technologies that are essentially going to shape how we do media, how we do marketing the next, again, 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely longer.
Clearly a very special relationship amongst the three companies. And as our time is about to run out, I would love to leave the audience with a little bit of a sneak peek. And is there anything that the three of you would like to collaborate on next?
Oh, look, yeah, I'm out here.
I would just say it's like what excites me the most, and it's like, and I'm so happy that we are already doing this amazing project with Walls, and I think it's using location-based AR. It's just this element of just kind of connecting physical and virtual experiences, and I think in taking it further and just thinking about gamification and just kind of like that's something, this area, not necessarily like it's just like it's so exciting, and I think it's so happy that we're doing the work and what else we can do. But yeah, Arthur, Aman, anything else you're excited about?
Okay, I'm not going to play chicken and I'm going to respond first. I'm not going to keep putting it at you. I think in a lot of those campaigns and those examples we talked about, AI is a complementary tactic. I would love to work on a project where actually immersive technology is the heart of the campaign. We've seen fantastic example from Gorillas working with Google to create this experience in the New York Times. I think there is so much to be said about the value you can get from both the engagement, but also the PR you can get out of sort of things like that. It has to be the right brand, it has to be the right project, and I think we've kind of have that with Walls and the sort of the ice cream popping up in everywhere in the world. But it's how do we double down on that? How do we take that to the next level? I would love to be able to do something that is transformative and challenges the industry and us, be that Unilever, be that Mindshare, be that Aircards, to do something that's next level.
Yeah, I think for me, I would love to see a campaign, an immersive experiences campaign that gives me 5x the sales which the investment will put. I think, to be honest, I think going down to the conversion funnel, if we can build something that sells on hotcakes, I think again that's every marketer's wish, but I'm just putting it out there because I think we can do that. I think there's potential to to do conversion at a max level and show actually how growth marketing works. Because with immersive experiences, I think, and with higher dwell times and the kind of engagement we are able to get with a good experience and value, there is
Yeah.
potential to do more. Like, let's show case studies, let's build cases and campaigns where we actually, there's a, when we do the KPIs and results, there is a not just an uplift number and a
Yeah.
impression number and a dwell time number, there is a number on turnover. I think
Completely.
that's sort of the gold standard of it. If we are able to show business that this actually sells and makes money beyond other tangible metrics we have on marketing usually, right? I think that's the gold standard. And it's hard to achieve, I believe, I know, but I think we have all the ingredients to do that.
I would just say, just because like we have last few seconds, that challenge accepted hashtag.
I was going to
But
say it's a good time to go buy some Unilever stock. The whole team is going to be working on driving sales. And, with that, that brings us to the end of our first webinar. Thank you again to our panelists and to all of the attendees for joining us today.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
very
us.
amazing. Thank you, guys.